Something changed, and now people react to your silence differently. There is a pattern behind it, a quiet manipulation method. What happens when silence stops influencing and starts controlling everyone? Because once you see it, you cannot unsee what follows, and now it's already happening inside you. You felt it the moment the reply didn't come. That pause stretched longer than it should. Your eyes returned to the screen again. No notification, no explanation, just silence. And your mind started filling the gap. You checked again and again. You replayed every word you sent. You measured your tone, your timing, your meaning. You have been doing this your entire life, and calling it patience. Strategic silence doesn't remove interaction. It replaces it with uncertainty. Uncertainty forces your brain to seek closure, and closure makes you chase. A message gets read at work. No reply for hours. Your behavior shifts before theirs ever does. Most people react to silence and lose control. You are about to understand how silence takes control. This is not communication advice. This is the architecture of psychological influence. Silence is not absence. It is pressure. You weren't ignored. You were conditioned. You think you're waiting for them. But something else has already started waiting inside you. Your mind is not confused. It's being trained. The conversation keeps replaying without your permission. Every word gets analyzed from a different angle. Tone, timing, meaning. Nothing feels certain anymore. And that uncertainty starts pulling you deeper. You check your phone before thinking. You reread messages searching for hidden mistakes. You imagine outcomes that haven't even happened yet. You didn't lose control suddenly. It was taken gradually. You have been feeding this loop and calling it awareness. Strategic silence exploits your need for closure. The brain cannot tolerate unresolved social tension, so it creates its own answers to fill the gap. Most of those answers turn against you. That is the hook inside you, not them. You. A message sits unanswered in a relationship. Hours turn into a quiet pressure. Your next reply becomes softer, more careful, more compliant. You adjust without realizing why. At work, a superior ignores your update. You send a follow-up with a different tone. Less confident, more agreeable, seeking approval. Most people react emotionally to silence and get shaped. You are about to understand how silence rewires behavior. This is not self-awareness training. This is exposure to a mechanism most never see. Silence conditions behavior through reward and withdrawal. You are not responding to them anymore. You are responding to the discomfort inside you. You're not chasing them anymore. You're chasing relief. You misread silence, and that's why it worked. You thought silence meant distance. You assumed it signaled loss of interest. You filled the gap with your own conclusions, and every conclusion weakened your position. The quietest move is often the most aggressive. You leaned closer when they pulled away. You softened when they gave nothing back. You tried to fix what was never broken. You have been interpreting silence emotionally and calling it intuition. Silence is not passive. It is an intentional withdrawal of response. That withdrawal creates emotional imbalance, and imbalance creates leverage. Control doesn't require action. It requires calculated absence. In a relationship, they suddenly go quiet. No argument, no explanation, just distance. Your behavior shifts to recover connection. You invest more while they invest nothing. At work, someone withholds feedback. You question your performance without cause. You adjust your behavior to regain validation. Most people see silence as disinterest and lose control. You are about to see it as calculated pressure. This is not common awareness. This is exposure to controlled psychological positioning. Silence is not empty space. It is directed influence. Silence doesn't remove power. It relocates it. And once you see where that power moves, you start noticing something else happening next. Your reaction is the only thing keeping this alive. You feel the urge to respond immediately. You feel the need to explain, to correct, to fix. That impulse is not yours anymore. It was installed the moment silence unsettled you. They don't control you unless you respond. You reach for your phone without thinking. You rewrite messages before sending them. You adjust your tone to regain balance. You have been feeding the loop and calling it connection. Detachment breaks the mechanism instantly. Observation replaces reaction, and reaction is the fuel silence depends on. Remove the fuel and the system weakens. Closure is the addiction here, not the person, not the situation. Your mind demands resolution to feel stable, and that demand makes you predictable. In a relationship, you pause before replying. You feel the urge to clarify everything, but you don't send anything, and something shifts immediately. At work, feedback doesn't come. Instead of chasing it, you wait. Your behavior stays unchanged, and control begins to rebalance. Most people seek answers and lose control. You are about to remove the need entirely. This is not emotional maturity. This is controlled detachment under pressure. Control begins where reaction ends. The moment you stop needing a response, you become the one controlling its absence. And once that shift happens, something else starts changing in how others respond. The most powerful message is the one you don't send. Something changes the moment you stop reacting. Your silence no longer feels weak. It starts creating tension in others instead, and they begin filling the gap you left. Influence increases the moment you disappear correctly. You delay responses without explanation. You choose when presence exists. You remove availability without warning. You have been over-explaining your presence and calling it communication. Strategic silence becomes your instrument now. You control timing, not emotion. Presence becomes selective, not automatic. Absence becomes deliberate, not accidental. Words invite interpretation and resistance. Silence forces projection and imagination amplifies emotional intensity. In a relationship, you stop replying instantly. You allow space to expand naturally. They begin questioning your attention and investing more to regain it. At work, you stop over-communicating. You respond only when necessary. Your absence becomes noticeable, and your presence gains weight. Most people use words and lose influence. You are about to use absence itself. This is not social advice. This is controlled psychological positioning. Silence, used correctly, creates gravitational pull. They won't understand why they feel pulled toward you, only that they do, and when that pull starts building, it begins shaping something far more permanent. You don't fear silence anymore, you create it. Something irreversible has already shifted inside you. You no longer reach for validation automatically. You no longer rush to close every gap, and people start noticing what they cannot explain. Control was never loud. It was always quiet. You move differently in conversations now. You allow space without needing to fill it. You decide when presence appears, and when absence speaks louder. You have been chasing connection your entire life, and calling it strength. The hidden enemy is no longer external. It has been absorbed into your awareness. Strategic silence is no longer used against you. It becomes a tool you understand completely. Control is no longer reactive. It becomes selective and intentional. You don't explain your absence. You let it define your value. In a relationship, you stop seeking reassurance. You allow distance without panic, and attention starts returning without effort. At work, you stop overextending communication. You speak only when necessary, and your words begin carrying more weight. Most people fear being ignored and lose themselves. You are about to understand the power of being unreachable. This is not confidence. This is controlled psychological positioning. You don't wait in silence anymore. You create it. Silence was never the absence of power. It was the signal that you were ready to take it.